right? So I will just touch upon we are not wasting any time on this. We will get started as well because the course is very huge, and then we have to complete as soon as possible with the quality and all, right? So what I will do was today we'll started with Python. Okay, so in Python, first I will tell you what are the IDEs. Okay, we will normally use in day-to-day life in real time, and then what are the things you will also need to understand. Okay, what are the IDEs used for DS, and then I will also show you how to install those things also, and then create different ways of creating virtual environment. Create virtual env, and then we'll start with some basics in Python, and I will also show you data types and operators, and I will show you what are the variable concepts on that. Okay, so this is what I was trying to plan today in 1 hour. So we'll try to see like how much we can cover. Okay, you can pitch in, and then you can raise the questions if you have anything in between also.
Okay.
So first thing you need to understand what are the IDEs, right? IDE is nothing but the full form is Integrated Development Environment. Okay, so the tool, you can think like it's a kind of a tool. Whatever currently I'm writing, right? This is also one type of a IDE.
Okay.
Right? So it is nothing but a tool which will be useful for the developers to write code, to do any kind of experimentations, run the workflows, all those things. Okay, that we call as an IDE. Now for DSA, sorry, not DSA, for data science or like AI engineer and everything, people will use two major things. One is VS Code. Okay, so which is nothing but the Visual Studio Code. This is developed by Microsoft. Okay, so I'm currently using the Mac. That's why you will directly see the Mac version. But you can also go and click here, download button. So the respective version will be here. Let's say if you are using Windows 11, you can install, and then if it's a Mac, you can install, right? So this is how you can install, and then you can just download it, try to install in your file explorer. It will ask like 5 to 6 prompts, I guess, like where to install and which document folder you need, whether you can install in document folder or like C drive, D drive, right? So those things it will ask, and then it will complete it. Okay, so that's about the Visual Studio Code. Why I was saying this is, I mean, there are other tools also, like PyCharm is there, Spider is there, but 90% most of the companies will use Visual Studio environment. Okay, now you might have asked me, since the AI came, there are multiple tools also came. There is a tool called Cursor. Okay, this is also people will use mostly. So this Cursor also, it has at the back end, it will use the same a wrapper of Visual Studio Code. Okay, whatever the things you do in Visual Studio, the same thing will be present here, but it has like a wrapper called AI, right? That's it.
Okay.
So maybe after some time I will show you also, not today, maybe after few classes I will show you this also, like how the differences between Visual Studio and Cursor. Okay, and then there is a one more thing called Windsurf. Windsurf also recently came. So these two things came after ChatGPT, Cursor and Windsurf. But previously we have Visual Studio Code, and then PyCharm, and then Spider. Okay, Windsurf is also one of the AI driven or like a AI wrapper Visual Studio version. Okay, if you can see all these things at the back end, you can see like the graphics or like the environment is entirely that is inbuilt from the Visual Studio. Okay, so these are the three things you need to understand, and there is a one more thing you need to understand was Anaconda. Okay, Anaconda is also one of the IDE which 99, not 99, 100% people will use in the industry. So you have to familiar with what exactly Anaconda and all those things. In the Anaconda also, you don't need to go for like all the tools which is present in the Anaconda. Okay, so I will show you some of the things. Let's say if you go and here download now, so you will see like a the respective download options. So for Mac and for Linux and then Windows you can install it. So Python current version is Python 3.13. You can also use any kind of a Python version that you have in your system, right? So now once you download and install, right? So I will show you the pop-up how it look like. Not pop-up, like I will show you the uh, 1 second. Yeah, yeah.
I'm
So you
just
will
able to see only one slide,
oh,
like the agenda one.
once. Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah. I shared entire screen. Okay, let me use the agenda and then okay, fine, cool. So maybe I will quickly reiterate. So what I was saying was, so most of the there are three ideas currently came in the industry. One is Visual Studio is like an older version. So 90% of the people were using this only. But after ChatGPT and AI came into the industry, so people are trying to go for a cursor. Cursor is also the AI code editor.
Good.
What is the major difference in the sense like it has the AI inbuilt? I mean, Visual Studio is also have like a AI code, so I will show you that also. But it has more functionalities. Cursor will have like a extra functionalities of the AI and all those things. Okay, this is not free, so you need to pay for using the AI. But Visual Studio is a little bit free version, I believe. Like GitHub Copilot, they integrated, so then you can use like all the AI features inside the Visual Studio also. Okay, for
Okay.
some extent. And then there is a one more IDE people are using Windsurf. This is also a AI code editor similar to Cursor. So I feel like there is no major differences, but since there are two companies evolved, so they came up with their own tools. That's it. So maybe there will be a little bit of budget and all those things will be there, but we are not going into those details for now. Yeah, but you can use Cursor, Windsor, Visual Studio, anything as per your requirement, as per your convenient. Okay, so these are the three things. And but in our course, I will go with basic Visual Studio only. I'm not going with the Cursor and Windsor. Okay, so we can use the code and everything in Visual Studio Code. And then there is a one more thing called Anaconda, right? So Anaconda is a platform, right? So it's a also sorry,
Yeah, advanced AI.
yeah, it is also one of the AI code editor now. They integrated AI, but before that there is a this is without AI, right? So this is also one of the IDE people will use for all the coding, right? For the data science and all. So basically, they will create a Jupyter notebooks here. When I say Jupyter, I will also show you what exactly Jupyter notebook, what is .py notebooks. This similar example. I know like you might have already done some work, okay, but I just touch upon like what are those things, right? So now from Anaconda, you can just go and download. It will download, and then after the installation, so you will be looking, I mean, you will get some kind of a navigator like this, Anaconda navigator. So if you see environment, so from this environment, you can launch anything. So if you see PyCharm is also there, okay, and then Jupyter Lab is there, Spider is there, Spider is there. Once again, right? Jupyter Lab is a Jupyter Notebook is a Spider. So whatever I told the IDs, those are already integrated. But VS Code they haven't integrated because VS Code is a different company, right? So maybe they did not give the permissions, right? So but you can play around all these things. But mostly I use Jupyter Lab and Notebook in real time also. So these Spider I won't go because I have VS Code and similar way PyCharm and these databases we won't use directly in the any real one, so I don't go those things now. When I click launch here, right, so it will redirect to my default browser and then it will open a lab. Okay, I will tell you what exactly the difference between lab and notebook. Lab is nothing but it will have like a all kind of a notebooks. Let's say IPython notebook will be there, and then .py notebook is there, terminal also will be there. But when you do a Jupyter notebook, which means that it is only the IPython notebook. Okay, IPython is nothing but a Jupyter notebook, and then .py is nothing but a Python file. Okay, so I already clicked, and it will have something like this. You will get into a screen like this, and here you will have something like this, right? So there is this plus icon is called launcher, and then you will see all the files here. So this is a dot. If you click here, this is called .py file. You are getting .py, right? So this is a Python file. So these
Okay.
files you have to create in a production grade, or like a when you want to do some kind of a modularized code, right?
Okay.
So you need to understand how to write Python files, and then how to write Jupyter files also. Okay,
Okay.
and then let me hit terminal, right? So a terminal is nothing but a command line interface where you will interact with your backend virtual environment or like an environment, and then you will execute your own task. Okay, so this terminal, the whatever I said, right, it's a generalized definition. Okay, so terminal is a generalized thing, and you can also create text files .txt, and then you can also create markdown files. Okay, when I say markdown, md.md or markdown files, these markdown files which will be useful for you create a documentation for your project, right?
Okay.
So when you go to any GitHub and all those things, right? Maybe let me show you GitHub
I
again.
know GitHub. I know.
Okay, cool. Yeah, in the GitHub you can also create these MD files and all those things, right? And then you will also create Jupyter notebook files, all those things. Okay, so those are the major things related to IDE. Now we'll try to see like a how can you create a virtual environment, right? So first thing was, what exactly virtual environment? So you have your own project, and then sometimes you will work on a multiple projects also, right? Or like maybe your team is working in different project, and then you are working in a solo, you are working in different project, right? That requires different packages. Maybe that requires any Python packages, and only 5 to 6 Python packages. But you are working on a full-fledged enterprise scale, there you require more packages, right? In that case, what will happen, you need like a different packages to be there to fulfill your task. You cannot execute your code files in their environment, and then they cannot come and execute in your environment. And you cannot create any kind of a base environment which will have like a all the modules, right? So that is like a little bit of wrong. Why it is wrong in the sense, like when you create all the packages with one environment, but 90% you won't utilize all those packages, so you are unnecessarily creating those things. So that's why,
We are keeping more storage for that.
yeah, yeah. So we are giving more storage, and then we are unnecessarily utilizing the resources and all. So that's why we have a concept called virtual environment. A virtual environment is an environment that only related to your project. Okay. So whenever you start a project, it's always important to create a virtual environment. But when you go to your in real companies, you don't need to create any virtual environment. So the all the configurations by default, everything will be created for you. You just need to put your code to be executable in their virtual environment. Okay. Yeah. But if there is a smaller companies, let's say you are working in startup and all those things, right? Maybe you will get a chance to create from the scratch. But if it is a bigger companies where you will have like all the infra setup, everything is there, then you don't need to create about these things. But let's say if you want to use in your personal projects and all, it's much important. So now let's go ahead and see like how to create a different ways for virtual environment. Now what I will do was, I will open my terminal, and then I will go to documents, cd, what is the folder name I created? I think DS training. DS code dot. Yeah, you can execute the code dot to open VS Code. Okay, I think its cursor is opening by default. Okay, let me open VS Code. You can also open in different ways from terminal, from your drag and drop, or like your normal way, file explorer and all that. Okay. Yeah. So this is how I
Gotcha.
I am inside the DS training. Now let's try to see how do you create a different types of virtual environment. So first thing was we can create using a Conda. Okay. So a Conda is nothing but now you install Anaconda, right? So we can create a one virtual environment using Conda. Okay. Before that, I will show you one more method. So using Python. Okay. The basic Python one. So to create it, Python 3, the command called -m virtual environment, and then you can give the name of the virtual environment. Let's say if I'm giving class 1, right? So now class 1 virtual environment, sorry, I think class 1 is already exists. Let me remove this. RMRF. Okay, so the command was Python 3 -m virtual environment and class 1. So this is a way of creating using normal Python syntax. Okay. Now, as soon as executes, you will be able to see like a sum folder here, right? With the class 1 and then respect to default pip version and all the .sh files, all those things, right? So now you create it. First thing was you need to activate the environment. How do you activate? So in the bin folder, you will see activate file, right? You need to call that and you have to activate. So since I have I'm executing in Mac, I need to use the source, but in your mission, you can also use like a normal command directly. Okay. So now it is inside the class and bin activate, right? So once I activated, you will be able to see like a class 1 here.
Class 1.
Okay. This is a way of activating. Let's say if I want to deactivate it, I don't want at this point. So I'm just executing deactivated, but still it is there. Okay. Now I have to remove entire file. So the command was rf remove rf and
Class.
the corresponding folder. Now entire virtual environment is deleted. So this is one way of creating using Python commands.
Okay.
Right? There is a one more way where you can create using virtual environment. There is a library itself called virtual env. Okay. So for that, first you need to install the library which is virtual env. So in typical Python, the installation of libraries will happen using pip commands. Okay, so pip is a command line command which will let you know to install any kind of a libraries in the package. Sorry, in a Python. So pip3 install virtual env. So now I am installing virtual environment package. So yeah, since it's already there in my system, so it's giving like a requirement already satisfied. But if it is a new, then it will take all the necessary packages and it will install. Now what I need to do, I need to create an environment. So I will use Python 3 and again command m virtual env. Now I need to give the name. So I'm giving class 1. Okay. So now if you see my class 1 is created. Now again I need to go source class 1 bin activate. Okay. Now my class 1 is activated. Also, just I forgot, like, let me know if you want me to zoom in a bit this window and all if you are unable to see the text on.
I'm able to see that. I'm able to see.
Cool. So now I activated, and then if I want to deactivate this, now deactivated again like rf class 1, right? So it was deleted. This is another way of creating virtual environment using your virtual env library. Now there is the most useful version people will use in real world also. So which is using Conda. So I told you, right, we have installed Anaconda here. So we can use the Conda commands here to play around with the Anaconda navigator and terminal. You can create a Conda. The command is Conda create I and the syntax is name hyphen name and you need to create the name of the virtual environment. So in our case, class, and you have to specify Python. What is the version? 3.11. Okay, I'm currently using 3.11. So you can also give whatever the version it is there in your system. So now when you hit this, it will ask for like a once again. Okay, I think it's already exists. I created long back, I guess. Wait, let me remove it. Yeah, it is removed, and then it is asking whether you want to create again or not. Okay, I just need to press Y. So it will take like a 1 or 2 minutes based on the internet speed and all. Then it will create a entire virtual environment, Honda version of the virtual environment. Now I can choose Honda activate class one. Okay, so now my class one, if you see, I'm able to see the class one is here.
It's again created.
Yeah, now it is again created. So to deactivate Honda, deactivate, right? Yeah. The one thing was when you are creating with the Honda, you are not able to see any folder creation here, correct? So because it is creating at the backend Honda environment. Why? Because I have installed here, right? It is creating at the backend the folders and everything. When you are installing this, so you will see some kind of a file explorer option to enable. So all the files and all those things will be created inside that folder. Okay, that's the only difference. Now you might have asked me, and there is a one more way also, but I will show you in later stages because that is a very new version came in the industry. So that is a UV, creating a virtual environment using UV version. So which is very fast compared to all these environment, all these different methods what we learned so far. Okay. So, but if you ask me, what is the best method, right? So let me create. I will write some bullet points here so that you can also refer. Create pnv.ipnb. So this is how you can create a ipnb files. Let's say which is the best method to create Python virtual environment, right? So I would say like we can go ahead with Honda method. Okay, there are multiple reasons for that because especially when you are doing data science and then complex project, right? So you need to manage a lot of dependencies. Okay, whether it could be you need to handle multiple Python packages and then Docker files, all those things, right? So it has the version. I mean the way Honda creation is much better. So it will manage all the dependencies. Okay, and then you will also have a entire control of your environment. Okay, control of the environment, and Conda is already built in for data science. So lot of libraries, right, such as like maybe if you use Pandas, NumPy, TensorFlow, these are like a different packages that are useful for data science day-to-day life cycle, right? So Conda has all those inbuilt things built for data science. And then you will also have like a Conda have like a different features which are robust for any kind of a complex task and then packages requirement, right? So these are like a major things you need for any data science projects. So it has like a dependency resolution, advanced dependency resolution. Okay, this is also one of the reasons. So when you have dependent on different packages, right, automatically Conda will enable. You don't need to manually install all those dependencies. Okay, and then these environments also, I told you, right, these environment doesn't store here. These environments will store in a centralized location and then can be activated by using the name from anywhere on your system, right? So that's why this is very bigger benefit compared to all those things. So it has like a centralized storage and these are portable. So by utilizing these benefits and all. So Conda virtual environment, virtual method is the best one. Okay, cool. So that's all about like different ways of creating virtual environment before getting into starting any projects and all. Any doubts so far? I just wanted to take a pause and
No, there are no doubts.
okay, super. So now let's go ahead and see a basics about Python, right? So first thing was you need to understand the basics of the Python. So let's say how do you comment your code, right? How do you comment your single line comments and multi-line comment, those things, right? First thing we'll start with a and if you see when I keep this star hash, right, this is nothing but I'm creating a heading one, right? You might have used your Word document, Microsoft Word, right? The similar way. So if you want to
Yes.
keep heading one, you can have to keep your one hash. Okay. So now
Okay.
first thing you need to understand comments. How do you create a single line comment, right? So now let's say hash is a one way of creating comment. Once again, I think this is marked down. I need the code set, wait. Yeah. So now I haven't selected kernel. Once again. Okay. So now what I did here was, so if you want to execute your IPython notebook inside a VS Code environment or like inside a VS Code, you definitely need to select a kernel. Okay. So here I've already created a virtual environment. So that has like a class one, right? So just now we created using Conda. So I selected that one, and then you can try to see like 1+1 is executing. Okay. That's the only thing I missed here. So uh, now we can execute any kind of a IPython code under. Okay. The first thing was single line comment. Single line comment. So to give a single line comment, let's say if I am creating a variable, I will tell you what exactly variables also. So let's say if I am writing something like this. Okay. So now this is one of the line in your Python. So if you want to comment that line, you have to use a single hash. Okay. This is comment in your code. Okay, the single hash. And then to create a multi-line comments, right? So you can use triple quotations, right? One second. You need to give the triple quotations, and then you can write whatever the thing you need. Let's say this is the way of creating multi-line comment. Okay, so you can use any triple quotations. You can also use like a single triple quotation, right? So this is a way of, this is a very problem with the VS Code. So it will take like auto completions. Yeah, this is also another way of creating multi-line comments. Okay, if you ask me where exactly we will use like a multi-line comments, right? So the multi-line comments will be useful when you want to write what exactly the definition of the function or a method, right? So in that case, you will use like a multi-line comments. Clear? So this is about the multi-line comments, and you need to understand a different syntax and semantics, right? What exactly syntax and what exactly semantics? A syntax, let's say Python will follow a different syntax. I mean, compared to C language, other programming language, Python will also follow a kind of a syntax. So let's say you need to have name, and then if you want to assign some kind of a value to variable, so this is a way. Okay, you don't need to specifically say that what is this type, right? So type of the variable you don't need to specify. So Python will all inbuilt will specify the data type of the variable. Okay, that's the one thing. And then there is a one more in functions, right? In general, you will have a functions. I will tell you what exactly functions and all when we go into detail. But the way of writing the functions in Python is start with a command called def. Okay, the keyword called def, and then let's say if I am creating a function called person, it should close or like you should give the parenthesis closing and open parenthesis, and then you have to use a colon here. So when you hit a colon, if you see, it is going inside a one tab space, right? So this is called indentation in Python. So you have to,
Like it's going under the loop,
yeah, it's going under the exact like
like
D.
the loop.
So it is not starting exactly under D. So it is starting at a P, right? So now
Okay.
this is called indentation in your Python. So you have to follow all these indentations. All right. The typical indentation you can use like a tab, or like you can also use like a four spaces, right? So that is a common industry-wise best practice. Okay. So this is way of using indentation. Clear? Now you need to understand the line continuation. Line continuation. There is a line continuation. Okay, so let's say sometimes we will write like a bigger line of code and all. Let's say you are writing some for loop and you are writing some more conditions, all those things, right? So you can, which will give like a more characters in a single line. So, but that doesn't looks very good and user friendly, right? So what you can do was, let's say if I'm summing multiple values, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 55, 66, and so on. If I have so many values, I don't need to, if I write like that, so it doesn't feel good. So what typical thing was, we can use like a backslash here, and then you can come here, and then you can write 5 plus 6, right? So this is also one of the way. Now if I print, see, it is printing entire thing. It's not giving any error, right? So it is giving like a exact value, which is 142. So you can use like a backslash to continue the statement to the next line, right? Maybe I will add a comment here. Use backslash to continue to the next line. Okay, this is a one way. Now, if you want to write a multiple string statement, currently, let's say if I am writing name here, right? So this is only one string, right? Or like a one word. But let's say if you have a paragraph, how do you enclose these things, right? So a paragraph, let's say if I have paragraph variable, and then maybe I will use Python uses indentation to define blocks of code, right? And then I have one more line, right? If I execute, see, automatically one backslash is coming, correct? So this is a one way of creating, writing like a multiple lines, or like a, you can write a longer text in your code. Also, you can also enclose with a triple quotations without any backslash also. Let's say if I am writing triple quotation, if I am starting triple quotation here, right? Now you can write any entire paragraph. So consist of 4 spaces or a tab is required, right? So this way also you can create. Got it? So this is way of creating a word or like a string, and then if you have a paragraph, you can create it in this way. Right? This is one thing. And then let's say how to write multiple statements in a single line. Let's say I have a equal to 10, a equal to 10, b equal to 11, c equal to 12, d equal to 13, right? So and I have like a multiple values I need to initialize, right? So then in that case, if I am writing like a 10 lines, it doesn't look good, right? So what you can do is you can create all these things in a single line. Maybe if I use e equal to 12 and f equal to 13, right? So I can also write in a single line like this. So you can put a comma separated values. Okay. So that is a multiple statements in a single line. And you need to understand semantics in Python. Okay. So when you are assigning a variable, let's say you have like a equal to 12, right? So now when I write like this, so it means that we know it is a numerical value, but Python will directly understand or not. Yes, Python will also understand a equal to 12, which means that for us it is an integer. Okay, we can call this as an integer for now, not the number. Number is a normal layman term, but integer is a more programmer developer term. Okay, so Python will by default will assign the value and then it will understand the semantics of the value. Okay, so now a equal to 12 if I write, and if I execute it, so we know it is a number, but whether Python doesn't know, or I mean, we will have a question that whether Python will know or not. We haven't specified any data type, or whether it is a number, whether it is a character, whether it is a Boolean value, all those things, right? So as in previous programming C or C++, we explicitly need to specify. So to know that we have
Variable
a,
a is equal to, and we need to specify, right, sir?
yeah, now we don't need. So to know that
Okay.
whether Python doesn't already know that it is a integer or not, we have a function called type. Okay. So now if you see, a is a class of int. So which means that Python understood that this is the integer by default. Okay. Now if I write, we already wrote name, right? Yeah. Let's try to see what is the name. Name is not an integer, right? So name is a typically it is a string format what we are given. So it is a class of str. So which means that Python is already understanding the semantics of the variables. Clear? So these are the basic things you need to understand about the Python. So comments, definition of the syntax, basic syntax rules, common errors, whatever the things you will get. So if you did not follow any kind of a indentation, you will get a common error, right? So those things. Okay. So then we'll go into a thing called data types. Okay. So see, don't worry, I will give like a if you want any kind of a documentation way, maybe I will add like a more context here so that you can read through the entire notebook. You will get more idea. Okay. After the class, maybe I will add some kind of a documentation in every notebook, and then I will try to give you.
Okay.
Yeah. Create if I write those documentation in the class, it will kill our time. So I don't want to waste that. Yeah. So now data types, right? So first thing you need to understand what exactly the data type. It's a kind of a classification of the data, right? In world we have like a different types of data, correct? So we have numbers, you have character A, B, C, all those things, right? So it's just like a classification of data which you need to tell to your computer or interpreter how the programmer intends to use the data. Let's say you are giving a equal to 12. Okay, you are saying that this 12 is a number to your system, right? Because Python, not Python, the system doesn't understand whether it is a integer or not, right? So that's why we have like a concept called data types. So it will determine the operations that should be performed, right? If you give like a equal to 12 and b equal to Uday, and if you are trying to do some mathematical operation like plus, right, that doesn't work. Okay, it will fail. Okay, today, why do we need the data types in the sense like to perform any kind of extra operations using your data? Okay, so this is a simple definition, and then why do we need the data types in the normal programming language. Okay, now let's see in Python what are the different types of data types are available. Okay, now first thing was we have integer, right? Int class. So let's say if I am using a equal to 12, so this is a integer. We already saw that. Now there is a one more data type called floating point, right? So you know like float will be there. Float is nothing but it's a decimal. Let's say if I am using salary, I mean usually salary won't be decimals. Let's say assume that you will have a salary called 3000.114, right? In that case you are assigning a decimal, right? We need to understand what is the type of this. Okay, so this is also one of the data type. So it's a float data type. Okay, and then these are like a basic data types, and then Python you will have like a additional data types also is there. I will show you all those things also. Now string, this is also one of the common. Maybe if I write Uday, so we saw this just a while ago. This is also done. Now one more thing called Boolean. Boolean is also different data type, because Boolean, let's say if you are saying yes or no or true or false or 1 comma 0, these are all like a Boolean types, right? So true or false is a Boolean. So let's say if I am initializing with true, and then if I am trying to see what is the type of this variable called case, it's a Boolean, right? The class is bool. This is the one thing. Okay, and you might have asked me how do you convert, right? Sometimes what will happen was this this 12, right? So sometimes at the back end or like in any kind of a system, you want to store this as a string format instead of your character. Let's say if email, right? I will give you a real world use case. Let's say email will contain alphanumerical character, right? It doesn't contain only alphanumeric, right? I mean, only numbers or only characters, right? You can also create character plus symbols plus and then numbers and all those things. But at the back end, you can't store that as either you can't store that entire thing in a uh, number format or you boolean format or float format, right? So what they are doing typically, that creating that number inside the email string into a varchar, and then they will create it. Okay, so that is a one case where you can create a where you need to convert your integer data type to string format. So now we will try to see how do you convert those things. Let's say a equal to 12, I've initialized. This is a basic typical integer, but I want to convert this 12 to string to utilize or like to fulfill my task. How do you do that? Let's say a, I'm initializing again astr, and it's just very easy. So you have like a inbuilt classes wherever you want to convert. So now I am trying to convert this 12 to string. So I will use like a str. Str is a string class. Okay, I can use this one. And now if I print type astr, so it is a class of string. See, now if I print this astr, it is 12 only, but it is enclosed with a quotations, right? Which means that it is converted into string, correct? Now, a typical common error, what we will get was, let's say if you are trying to, let's say if I am trying to update a, I'm trying to do some mathematic operation, a plus a str. So it will fail because a is a integer and then this is a string. So the arithmetic operation it doesn't take, right? So it will fail. So that's why you will get it. These are the common errors. So just like when you are writing the code, right? You don't know at the back end you will fetch the data, the variable data, but you don't know whether that is a type, whether it is an integer, whether it is a string or not, right? So the upstream team or like upstream table will have like a string format, but you are doing an arithmetic operation. So in those cases, the type caching will work here. Okay, the type caching you have to perform and then you have to do, right? So this is about the basic data type, but there are advanced data types in the Python. I will tell you in later classes when we start that entire thing. So the advanced data types, we will have like a list, tuple, dictionary, and then you will have a sets. These are the most advanced topics in your Python. Okay, and then we already saw the type conversion, so which is a type casting or type conversion you can call, right? So this is about the basic data types. Now we'll quickly go on to uh, basic operators. Yeah. So what are the operators mean, right? So let's say if you want to create any kind of a task in program, right? So those things will be done by using your operators. So we have like a different types of operators. One is basic thing called arithmetic operators. Okay, arithmetic operators. In arithmetic operators, you will have normal day-to-day arithmetic operations. What you do: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, floor division, modulus, exponential, right? All those things will be there. Okay. So now, let's say if I'm creating two variables, b equal to 10. One second. I selected environment. Okay. So I created two variables. Now let's say if I want to add those two things, right? So you basically do addition. Okay, a plus b. This is fine. And then a minus b, and then see basic things I'm not telling you, like multiplication, right? Subtraction you will do hyphen, and then multiplication you will do your star here. But one thing was you will, let's say if you want to do power operation, right? I will tell you how to do the power operation in here because it's a different thing. Let's say if I'm using, I need like a 2 power 3, right, which is 8. So what I need to do, a double star b. Okay, this is the power operator, or we can call as a 2 power 3, all those things, a power b. Okay, but there is a one more method directly available in NumPy module that is also doable, but you can directly use double star here. Okay, and then normal modulus, all those things are normal things, so you can just explore these things later. So now comparison operators, right? There is a one more set of operators. We'll have like a equal to, and then not equal to, greater.
Double equal to, not
Yeah,
equal to,
yeah. Those,
greater than equal to,
yeah,
less than equal to.
correct. Those are all called comparison operators, right? Let's say if you ask me where we will use those things in a real world, let's say you are doing some kind of a voting system, right? So what is a normal voting eligibility of the age as per the Indian standard? So if the age is
It's
greater than
18.
18, yeah, then you have to eligible, right? So in those cases, you will use like a comparison operator. Let's say if I am writing something like that, if age is not equal to 18, so what? Maybe we have to throw error, or we have to display that the person is not eligible for voting, right? So then, okay, because age I did not specify. Let's say if I am writing age 10, okay, see, this is one. So this is one of the comparison operator which is not equal to, and then you will have typical greater than, less than, double equal to, greater than or equal to, just like normal way what you know in normal real work, the same thing. Okay, I'm not stressing here. There is a one more thing. You can use like a logical operators, right? So the logical operators are called and, or, and not. Okay, so these are logical operators. Let's say we want to give like a, if the person is male or like a female, and then you have to go and you have to see like a age is 18. So if you want to use multiple conditions, right, in those cases these logical operators will be useful. Let's say if I'm writing a case call, I mean condition call, if the person's age should be greater than 18 and gender it should be equal to male. Okay, if I'm writing like this, so what I am using, I'm using a multi condition, and then that should have like a and. Okay, so in those cases you will use a and typically are also same. Okay, let's say if I am using like a age mandatory should be greater than 18 and the gender not male, then I will use a not operator. Okay, so this is how. Let's say if I am, or like maybe if I am writing age equal to 2, and then if not age greater than 18, then I just use a pass. I will tell you what exactly pass keyword in later stages. Yeah. So what I am doing, age is not greater than 2. In that way, it success and it is going inside a if clause. Okay. So this is called operators. Basic operators where you learned in normal programming language or all those things. Right. Now variables. Okay. So I will quickly complete the variables. What exactly the variable? So variables are a fundamental concepts in any programming language used to store the data, and that can be referenced anywhere. I mean, not anywhere, like there are global variables, all those things will be there, but that can be inferenced and manipulated in your project or program. Okay. In Python, variables will be created when you assign a value to them. Okay. So when you assign, let's say a equal to 12, you are writing like that and executing. So variable will be created, and you don't, the variables doesn't need to explicitly declare any memory space. Okay, the declaration will automatically happen when you assign a value to the variable. Okay, that's a basic definition and basic things you need to understand about the variables in your Python. Let's say I'm writing a age equal to 19, right? In 1 second, use the markdown. Sorry, and maybe I need to select a kernel again. Yeah, is equal to 10, right? So in that case, I now a variable called age was already created. Okay, and then the variable declaration is writing in this way, age equal to. Okay, and then you need to understand the basic naming conventions. How naming conventions for writing the variables. So the variables should be descriptive. When I say descriptive, whatever the thing you write, right? Let's say in voting system, you need to take the value of age, right? So if I write the value with the age, then people will understand. Okay, let's say if I am writing a equal to 10, you don't know, right? What is this a? Whether it is a person age or whether it is a person pin code, right? You don't know, right? So that's why the variable should be descriptive. So when somebody was reading this variable, they should understand by default, okay, this variable is storing some kind of a value. Okay, so in such a way that you need to write a variables. Okay, and one more thing, they must start with a letter, or underscore. Okay, and it should contain letter, numbers and underscores. Okay, anything is fine. Clear? And variables are case sensitive. Got it? So in Python, variables are in case sensitive. Let's say if you are writing $a equal to 26, this is wrong, so it will throw error. Okay, this is invalid syntax. You should not write like this. So these are the basic naming convention for your variable, right? And there is a one thing called I already told you the type conversion, or like a type caching, right? So when you are writing, I mean, if people will ask like, do you know the dynamic typing in Python? So it is not like any different concept. Dynamic typing is nothing but when you assign a value to the variable, automatically your typing or like a data type is understandable to the compiler, right? That's called like a dynamic typing. Okay, Python allows the type of a variable to change across the programming. So by using that str, all those things, right? So you can change the type of the variable, okay, whatever the thing you need. Clear? So that's called dynamic typing. And you need to understand there is one more thing called input. Some Most of the times you need to give like an option for the user to enter a value, correct? In those cases you need like a input. Okay, so we have a function called input where it lets you know to enter a value. So let's say if I'm writing a equal to, I need like a integer value of input, right? So it will execute, and if you see on the top I got a text box to enter a value, correct? So now I can enter the value, and I haven't printed. Let's say if I am printing here, see the value got get assigned to a variable called a, and then now I am able to access outside of this cell. So this input will let you know to write, give an option to user to enter a value. Okay, this is the one thing you need to understand. And it also do validation also. Let's say now I gave my input should be in a integer. Okay, now let's say again if I am writing Uday, right? So now what, it will throw an error because you specified the value I need like a integer, but you are giving like a string value, correct? So by default it will do like a input validation also. Got it? So this is one thing you need to understand in a input function and all those, right? So let's say if you're if you're asking where can I use this input and all, right? So let's say if you're building very basic simple calculator module, right? So where people will enter the values, the numerical values. In those cases you can simply use this input function. Okay, any doubts so far? So that's about the variables. So the typical things, mostly I covered the basics of the things. We'll see like in next classes we'll go into different concepts. Let me know if you have any doubts.